He had his gun, so he just swung it open.
I start to notice that, the atmosphere feels a little bit weird.
First thing he seen was this 6.5 foot tall, broad shoulder, dark hair. That freaked him out.
We hadn't talked to her about like life and death and what any of that means. She's 3 years old,
So we turned around. Suddenly there's a whole tree falling across the road.
And she was describing to us that, there was a deceased person that she could see visually.
You're listening to Cryptid Clues, where we tackle the ever-expanding history and mystery of monsters and supernatural madness every Monday. You can find us at CryptidClues.ca for more information, or even check out exclusive content and support us at patreon.com/CryptidClues.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Cryptid Clues. I am your host, Taylor, and today we're going to talk about some Vegas aliens. One of the best things about having a podcast is the ability to use it as a catalog and resource for others to find information. It's one of the best reasons we have for tackling the more obscure and unknown topics when no one else will. And notably, all of those unidentified objects that kept appearing over North America and even across the pond, seems like that was a blink of an eye and forgotten about all of a sudden. But due to the powers of the podcast, we have it logged for future reference for years to come. And on that note of aliens, it takes us to these few occurrences that I wanted to highlight and document moving forward. And I quote, "Police body cam footage records UFO crash landing in Las Vegas backyard, followed by local residents calling the police, saying 2 8-foot tall figures with big eyes were in their backyard." End quote. Now, the original story is as follows. A Las Vegas family claimed that something crashed in their backyard, which immediately prompted them to call 911 about non-human beings that were spotted. What is fascinating about this is the fact that several people actually saw this happen. On April 30th, at around 11:50 p.m., the body cam of a Las Vegas Metro police officer filmed something streaking low across the sky. According to the American Meteor Society, several people reported seeing it, basically like a flash from Eastern California, Nevada, and Utah. Around 40 minutes after the aerial sighting, a man called into 911 claiming that he and his family saw something falling out of the sky, along with 2 things moving around in his Northwest Valley backyard. So I'm going to quote here how this call basically unfolded, starting with the caller. "There's like an 8-foot person beside it and another one inside, and it has big eyes and it's looking at us and it's still there." That's what the caller told the dispatcher. Dispatcher: "Okay, where is this on your property?" Caller: "In my backyard. I swear to God, this is not a joke. This is actually, we're terrified." Dispatcher: "So there's 2 people. There's 2 subjects in your backyard." Caller: "Correct. And they're very large. They're like 8, 9, 10 feet tall. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes. I can't explain it. And big mouths. They're shiny eyes and they're human. They're 100% not human." Dispatcher: "Okay." So the dispatcher at this point sent 2 officers out towards the home to investigate. And I quote, "I'm so nervous right now," one officer said via the body cam footage as he was preparing to drive to the house. "I have butterflies, bro. Saw a shooting star, and now these people say there's aliens in their backyard." So the officers officially arrived at the home in about a half an hour after the call was placed to 911. "What do you see?" one officer asked a witness. "It was like a big creature," one witness said. "A big creature?" "Yeah, more than 10 feet tall." "I'm not going to bullshit you guys," says the officer. "One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the sky too. So that's why I'm kind of curious. Did you see anything land in your backyard?" The video shows one officer walking into the backyard to investigate, but the Metro Police basically blacked out this part of the body cam footage just because it was citing privacy laws. I don't believe in it, but what I saw right now, I do believe in it. This is what a witness told the police officer. And the officer responded by saying, "You guys seem like legit scared, so I don't blame you." Now, around the same time, another witness told police they saw an SUV circling in the area. While one officer is investigating the backyard, This second officer was moving around talking to neighbors that were driving by, just trying to kind of establish a foundation and see what other witnesses had spotted. The SUV we'll touch upon in a little bit. Metro Police's investigation turned up no concrete answers, though. While the case was open for several days, the department ultimately closed the case. This included several more visits by officials to investigate the site. Representatives from the nearby Creech and Nellis Air Force bases said they were not involved in the incident, and a Pentagon spokesperson did not respond to questions regarding the situation. Now, this occurrence hasn't been properly publicized until now, of course, months later, but its timing could not be more in line with another extraterrestrial debacle that is unfolding. We have a former intelligence official by the name of David Grush, and he came forward with claims that the government reportedly has non-human spacecraft in its possession. And I quote, "We're not talking about prosaic origins or identities," Grush says. "The material includes intact and partially intact vehicles." The former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, Christopher Mellon, stated that a number of well-placed current and former officials have shared detailed information with me regarding this alleged program, including insights into the history, governing documents, and the location where a craft was allegedly abandoned and recovered. However, it is a delicate matter getting this potentially explosive information into the right hands for validation. This is made harder by the fact that, rightly or wrongly, a number of potential sources do not trust the leadership of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which is established by Congress. So, just for context, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, that's quite a name, is an office within the United States Office of the Secretary of Defense that investigates unidentified flying objects, the UFOs, and other phenomena in the air and sea and or space and on land. Also UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. Also unidentified anomalous phenomena is another term there as well. So you have this program that is coming forward where, hey, we've got the information, and it's going to basically dive into all these crafts that were recovered, abandoned in these different contexts. But again, to get it validated is very tricky by having certain sources credit and merit them, I guess you could say. So moving forward, Jonathan Gray. He's currently serving as a U.S. intelligence official at the National Air and Space Intelligence Center. Came forward and confirmed the existence of exotic materials in an effort to back up Grush's case. Gray also went further and said that non-human intelligence phenomena is real. We're not alone. Retrievals of this kind are not limited to the United States, so this is a global phenomenon, and yet a global solution continues to elude us. In Grush's debrief for Congress, he does not state if he has personally seen alien vehicles, nor does he say where they may be stored. I don't blame him. That's something I would love it to be public information, but you probably don't want that to be public information at this time. In June 2021, a report from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence said that from 2004 to 2021, there were 144 encounters between military pilots and UAPs, 80 of which were captured on multiple sensors. Only one of the 144 encounters could be explained with high confidence. So rounding back off to the first occurrence in Las Vegas, nearby Air Force bases, are they going to admit they have alien or super advanced tech? I personally don't think so. I don't think there was ever a scenario where that would happen. Heck, even Area 51 is nearby, and on top of all of that, you coincidentally have a black SUV roaming around, maybe hoping to find some non-human tech to add to the collection. The SUV is very interesting because it reminds me of a Dan Aykroyd situation. And this is something Reuben has spoken to when we did a Men in Black episode a while back. So I'll give you a little bit of context here on it. Back in 2002, Dan Aykroyd was working on a documentary project for the Sci-Fi Channel that included a number of familiar faces from the UFO community. This series was around 8 episodes long and was on the cusp of airing. It was so close. And one day after filming, Dan Aykroyd stepped outside for a cigarette and answered a phone call. The phone call was from Britney Spears. That is correct, Britney Spears. She was inquiring about an upcoming SNL episode, and while he was on the phone with her, he turned and looked out onto the street. Note, this is in New York at the time, and he noticed a black SUV with a tall man dressed in black watching him. Dan Aykroyd looked away and then back at the SUV really quickly. It was gone. person disappeared. Within 2 hours of this, Aykroyd and the cast were all told that their show had been canceled, completely just halted, and would never air. Still to this day, no definitive answer has been given to them why this was canceled. Dan Aykroyd himself has had multiple UFO encounters, and he is a strong advocate for the cryptid, paranormal, and UFO community, I would say. He was in an interview by Joe Rogan on his podcast. That was a very interesting episode. I highly recommend you listen to it. There's a lot of very cool insight and information that Dan Aykroyd has. Circling back, however, to the alien tech, I feel like things are all hidden in the fine print these days. And what I mean by that is the fact that every so often, the government knowingly admits to something but changes the words around. The fact that they can just change UFOs to UAPs, I find that crazy, but it also changes how a person receives and perceives that information. For example, if you hear UFO, are you thinking alien? I suspect you are. And I say that because I tested that. I asked a few people that I know, and their mind goes to extraterrestrial. If you hear UAP, you're not really sure what that is. And I bet you're inclined to think of something, maybe something flying around, but even then the term UAP is very convoluted to a degree. And so that's what whoever the powers to be would want you to think, at least in my semi-biased position. Do I know why? Not a chance. And I doubt I'll ever know that reason. But it's a narrative that is played close to their chest. The UAP term wasn't used until 2021, when the Office of the Director of National Intelligence released their preliminary assessment for the footage that was also released of the Navy capturing something unidentified on their scopes. That is something that me and Reuben touched upon in a previous UFO episode, where basically these US Navy pilots were flying around, and you see on their scopes and thermal these objects that appeared, and they're moving incredibly, and they're trying to get a lock on it. It's just incredible footage. And that footage came out along with several other documents and pieces of information through Trump's motion forward, which was a plan to deal with COVID-19. But it, for some reason, at the end of that was also a little bit of a package like, hey, let's release all of this documentation on UAPs at the time. Very, very peculiar release, but I digress. So that is basically where UAPs kind of came into the picture here, when the government became a little bit more open with it. So this assessment failed to mention aliens, period, however, and I think that is very important. This is where that UAP term comes into light. Now, again, I don't know why, but I feel like it's an exceptionally touchy subject when revealing aliens to the human race. As I mentioned before with the fine print, claiming UAPs exist, but not mentioning aliens is a great way to clear your government's name that, hey, these things are real, they exist, and they are flying all around us right now, but we have no idea who's flying inside them. That could very much be true, but I don't believe it. I bet you don't either. If you believe in the UAPs or UFOs, I suspect you got to believe that there's a pilot in there flying it. So ultimately, was this Las Vegas sighting the real deal? Drones are everywhere these days, and that doesn't mean those who call them in are basically pranksters. It's very easy these days to recreate something in the sky and trick bystanders around you. Drone light shows have become very popular and used in a plethora of marketing. Rockets are also more commonly launched these days. SpaceX is at the forefront of that. Sometimes you can see around 10 rockets launched a month. And this includes the whole planet, not one specific faction or country. And of course, meteorites, the most common occurrence in the night sky, albeit still rare. I believe around 15 or so hit North America each year, but most would never ever be seen or found if they fall into the Pacific Northwest or especially into the oceans. I digress, however. I highly recommend checking out the police body cam footage. I've got a link in the description below, and let me know what you think it is. Before we close this episode out, I want to check in on another sighting that took place very, very recently in Ohio. This happened last week on Thursday, June 22nd, over Middleton, and several residents had reported a multitude of rotating green lights hovering above them. And this started to happen around 10:30 p.m. I also have a video footage link available below. One of the eyewitnesses, named Bryce Garrick, watched the lights rotating in a clockwise motion before they swiftly and quickly zoom off towards the left side of the camera out of frame. Disappearing from view, these reports seem to discredit the idea of it being drone due to its sizing. We talked about the drone and light shows before. And upon viewing the video footage myself, its speed can also discredit drone usage. It's insanely fast. The only thing you can't necessarily discredit is computer generated imagery, which works for all of us online viewing it. But then how do you explain everyone standing around watching this thing in that area? Also, multiple people coming forward providing multiple footage with different angles, people with no pre-existing relationships with each other. That would be one heck of a tactical hoax if it was proven to be fake, which again just makes me wonder, like, where does this lie in the great context of a sighting here being a hoax, being the real deal, being just some fluke thing? I mean, it's hard to pinpoint. So we're at a very interesting point where I feel people are starting to look up, and I hope we get more interesting information that doesn't get drip fed and funneled by our government, so we can learn more of the truth. But that being said, I guess it is at least positive the government is semi-discussing openly the fact of UAPs, mind you, not UFOs, not aliens, unidentified aerial phenomena. Back in May, NASA held their first public panel regarding data collection on UAPs. This ties into our discussions from earlier. And in closing, the frequency of these mysterious events seems evidently more escalated. Albeit a Las Vegas backyard landing, unidentified objects flying over North America a few months ago, or in this case, a large ship in Ohio. When these things happen, it always feels like there's something else going on to distract people. While the Las Vegas sighting certainly gained a lot of attention, that was a few months ago at this time, people have, for the most part, just moved on. And now we have this event. I have not seen it like publicly talked about or communicated in different media forms. It seems like most people are talking about the Titanic submarine at this point in time. It just feels like the media is good at channeling out something to pull people's minds away from something else. It's fascinating, but I digress. That is definitely a topic for another day. So with that, we have come to a close for this week's episode. You can find us at CryptidClues.ca, our social media channels, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. You can also connect with us on Patreon, where you can get ad-free early episodes available there. Make sure you tune in next week, because I'm joined by Ryan Willis from the Sasquatch University. It's going to be a great time, great interview. I'm excited to be able to share it with you guys. So definitely tune in next week on the Monday. And yeah, that's it. So until next time, everyone, take care and stay safe. Thank you.